Wife left me for a yacht boy, now I live better than ever. Brace yourself, this isn't drama. It's the autopsy. I 32 grew up in a tiny coastal town in Oregon where salt air wasn't just a smell, it was a lifestyle. My dad was a fisherman, my mom ran a small bait and tackle shop. My earliest memories are of diving with my older brother Jake, pulling up crab pots and coming home sunburned and exhausted but happy. The ocean was my peace, my therapy, my church. I always thought I'd die in the same town I was born in, probably from a freak diving accident or choking on a fishbone. Then I met her. Maddie. She was 26 when we met, drop-dead gorgeous in that Instagram influencer way. Long legs, perfect skin, the kind of girl who always, accidentally, ended up in the center of every photo. She came to the coast for a corporate retreat, and I swear the moment she stepped off that shuttle bus in her designer sunglasses, she looked like she'd been dropped here from another planet. We talked, we clicked, and before I knew it she was spending weekends at my place, acting fascinated by the sea life, letting me take her diving, even though she was terrified of jellyfish. She said she loved my calm old soul energy, and for a guy who'd always thought of himself as just another scruffy local, hearing that from someone like her, yeah, it hit. Fast forward a year and we were married. But there was a catch. Maddie's career was in PR. Big clients, big events, big city. She said, if we're going to make this work, we need to be in Portland. I didn't want to leave the ocean, but I figured marriage was about compromise. So I packed up my wetsuits, kissed the ocean goodbye, and traded sea spray for concrete. I told myself love was worth it. I was wrong. City life hit me like a sucker punch. I went from saltwater mornings to rush hour traffic and fluorescent lighting. I took a desk job managing logistics for a shipping company, steady pay but soul-sucking. Meanwhile Maddie thrived. New wardrobe, networking events, cocktails at rooftop bars. At first I didn't mind the late nights. Client dinners, she said. Brand launches. Crisis PR meetings. She'd roll in smelling like champagne and that expensive vanilla perfume she wore on special occasions. Except now she was wearing it every damn day. One Friday she came home tipsy, dumped her heels by the door and tossed her blazer on the couch. I picked it up and out fell a receipt from a waterfront hotel, our old haunt from when we were dating. Except it wasn't in my name. I asked about it. She laughed. Said it was just a client meeting, and that she'd booked the room so they could have privacy to talk. I told her it sounded weird. She kissed me, slid her hands under my shirt, whispered, "Babe, don't overthink it." I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. But 2 weeks later I got off work early. The plan was to surprise her with sushi from her favorite place. When I called to say I was on my way, she didn't pick up. No big deal, probably in a meeting, right? Wrong. She'd left her iPad at home. I went to set it aside and the screen lit up with a text preview from a guy named Mark C. Can't stop thinking about last night. The way you... I didn't read the rest. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I opened the messages. There they were, flirty texts, late-night calls, pictures of her in lingerie I'd never seen before, and one video. Yeah, I watched it. Regretted it instantly. Her on a bed, tangled in white sheets, straddling him. Whispering things she'd never said to me. His hand gripping her hair, her nails dragging down his back. That's when it hit me, she'd found a way back to the water. Mark owned a yacht. He took her out for client entertainment. The waves I loved so much were now the backdrop for her cheating. I waited until she came home that night. I didn't want to do it over text, didn't want her to be able to spin it with emojis and half-truths. She walked in smiling, holding a bag from some boutique like she just had the best day of her life. I was sitting at the kitchen table with her iPad in front of me, screen still on the chat with Mark. "Sit down," I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. She froze, then tilted her head, that fake confused look she pulls when she's deciding how to play something. "What's this about?" I turned the iPad toward her. Watched the color drain from her face. "Oh my God, you went through my stuff?" she snapped. "That's so invasive." I almost laughed. "That's your first reaction? Not an apology?" "It's not what it looks like," she said, crossing her arms. I leaned back. "Really? Because it looks exactly like you screwing some yacht boy while telling me you're at client dinners." Her eyes went sharp. "You've been so dull lately, Alex. You never want to go out, you're always tired, you don't understand my world." "Mark, he's exciting. He makes me feel alive." "Alive," I said, my voice cracking. "I gave up the ocean for you. My family. My entire life. And you repay me by screwing someone with a boat." That's when she dropped the classic cheater's line. "If you were enough, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." I swear I saw red. Not because I believed it, but because she wanted me to believe it. She wanted me to walk away feeling like I was the problem. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I just said, "We're done. I'll be gone before the week's over." Her lip curled. "Good luck finding someone who'll put up with your small-town crap." That one stuck. And I hated that it did. I'd love to tell you I packed my bags that night and left with my dignity intact. Truth is, I just sat there after she stormed off to the bedroom, staring at the wall until the sun came up. My brain was stuck on repeat. If you were enough, if you were enough. That line dug into me like a hook. I've faced storms at sea, dove in pitch-black waters with nothing but instinct guiding me back up, but nothing prepared me for the slow suffocation of wondering if the person you loved was right, that you weren't enough. I stopped eating. Stopped calling my family back home. My mom texted asking if I was okay, said Dad was worried because I hadn't been out on the water in almost a year. My sister Brooke sent me a picture of the old pier at sunset and wrote, "Remember who you are, bro?" I didn't answer. Nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed on my side of the apartment, hearing her in the other room giggling on the phone, whispering in that soft voice she used to use with me. Every now and then, I'd catch her looking at me like I was some washed-up fisherman who'd gotten lucky and should have known better than to think I could keep a girl like her. And I hated myself for it, because somewhere in my gut, I believed her. One night I went into the bathroom, locked the door and just stared in the mirror. My hair was a mess, eyes bloodshot, shoulders slumped. I didn't look like the guy who used to free dive 30 feet for abalone. I looked like a man who'd left everything that made him alive behind, for someone who saw him as a placeholder. That's when something in me started to shift. Not enough to move on yet, but enough to realize I couldn't let her be right about me. The next morning I woke up with that ugly, heavy feeling in my chest, but instead of just letting it crush me like usual, I thought, no. Not today. Maddie was in the kitchen, scrolling her phone, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. She didn't even look up when I walked past her. That's when I decided I wasn't going to scream, beg, or try to win her back. I was going to take my time. Make my exit clean. Leave her with nothing but the memory of the day she lost me. First step, I called my brother Jake. Told him everything. He went quiet for a long time, then said, "Come home. Don't just leave her, outsmart her." I started playing the part of the subdued, broken husband. Quiet. Agreeable. Pretending to accept her excuses. She started relaxing, probably thinking she'd beaten me down enough to keep me under her thumb. While she was working late, I was working too, quietly moving our joint savings into an account under my name, all legal since most of it came from the sale of my family's boat before the move. I found a buyer for the condo, told him we'd be ready to close fast. Then came the best part. I reached out to a few of her PR clients under the guise of helping her with scheduling. Turns out, Mark the yacht boy wasn't just a fling, he was one of her biggest accounts. I didn't have to sabotage anything, I just made sure her boss knew she was mixing business with pleasure. The cracks started showing. She came home one night, slamming doors, muttering about idiots who can't mind their own business. She didn't know I was in the living room, smiling to myself. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. 2 weeks into my little act, Maddie was practically gloating. She'd walk around humming, doing her hair for client dinners, coming home late smelling like salt air and expensive cologne that wasn't mine. So I gave her what she wanted, a husband who seemed like he'd come around. One night over dinner I said, "I've been thinking, maybe we just need to reconnect. Go back to where it started." She looked up from her phone, suspicious at first, but when I said the words "weekend trip to the coast," she perked up like a cat hearing a can opener. "Really? You'd do that?" she asked, fake surprised. "I want us to work," I lied. "I'll book the hotel." Truth was, I'd already planned every detail. We'd stay at the same little beachfront inn where I first told her I loved her. Except this time it wasn't about romance, it was about setting the stage for my exit. I lined up everything back home. Condo sale paperwork ready to sign, movers on standby, bank accounts locked down. I even had my mom and sister on alert, ready to help me move my stuff into my brother Jake's spare house while Maddie was relaxing by the ocean. In my head, I kept picturing her standing on the balcony of that inn thinking she'd won, while her entire cushy little life back in Portland was dissolving without her even knowing it. It wasn't just revenge. It was taking back the dignity she thought she'd stripped from me. We drove out on a Friday morning, Maddie in oversized sunglasses, scrolling Instagram while I handled the wheel. The closer we got to the coast, the quieter I got, not because I was sentimental but because every mile was a countdown to freedom. We checked into the inn. She gushed about the romantic vibe, took selfies on the balcony, tagged the location like she was starring in her own travel blog. She didn't notice that while she was in the shower, I was sitting on the bed, signing condo sale documents on my laptop. That night, I took her to a nice dinner overlooking the water. She ordered champagne, leaned across the table, and gave me that smile she used when she wanted me wrapped around her finger. But I wasn't seeing her anymore, I was seeing the movers clearing out our place. Saturday morning she booked a spa day for herself. I offered to drop her off. Kissed her cheek, told her I'd meet her later. Then I got in the car and drove straight back to the city. When she got back to the inn that afternoon, she found the room empty. No note. No bag. Nothing. Just a text from me. You always loved the ocean. Enjoy it. Don't bother coming back to Portland, it's not your home anymore. By the time she made the frantic 3-hour drive, the condo was stripped bare. Locks changed. Her key didn't work. Movers had delivered my stuff to Jake's place and her things, what little was actually hers, were stacked in a storage unit with the first month's rent prepaid. I imagined her standing there in the hallway in her little designer sundress, realizing she had nowhere to go but back to her boyfriend's yacht. And God, it felt better than any dive I'd ever done. It took less than 24 hours for my phone to blow up. First, a string of texts from Maddie, crying emojis, how could you, we can fix this, and then, inevitably, you're a small, bitter man. Then came the calls from mutual friends in Portland. Apparently she was already spinning the story, telling everyone I'd abandoned her during a romantic getaway, that I'd lost it because I couldn't handle her success. I ignored them all. The only person I called back was my mom. She'd heard Maddie's version through the grapevine. I told her everything. Every lie, every late-night yacht trip, every insult. My mom went silent for a long time, then said, "Honey, she's lucky you didn't leave her floating in the harbor." My sister Brooke? Oh, she was savage. She posted an old picture of me in my diving gear with the caption, "When your sister-in-law thinks she can sink you, but you've been swimming with sharks your whole life." I didn't ask her to take it down. Maddie tried to call my brother Jake too. Big mistake. He picked up just long enough to say, "You had a good man and you threw him away. Don't call here again." The best part? A week later, I got a message from one of her coworkers. Apparently, my little accidental tip-off about her mixing business with pleasure had reached the higher-ups. She'd been pulled off the Mark account entirely, and he'd stopped returning her calls. The yacht boy? Turns out he wasn't interested in playing house. He had a wife in California. I should have felt bad for her. I didn't. Not for a second. Once I knew Mark had ghosted her, I figured the universe was already doing its part. But then an idea hit me, why stop there? I called an old friend from the coast, Tyler, who runs a popular local marina where Mark sometimes docked. Over a couple of beers, I casually mentioned Maddie's habit of blurring the lines between her personal life and her clients. Tyler already knew about her. Apparently, she'd strutted down the dock more than once in barely their sundresses, hanging off Mark like she was the first lady of yachting. Word spreads fast in small-town circles, and it wasn't long before some of the more conservative business owners in her industry started side-eyeing her. Contracts she thought were in the bag suddenly fell through. A panel she was supposed to speak at rescinded their invite. And me? I stayed quiet. Didn't post about it, didn't brag. Just kept living my life and letting the tide carry her further from shore. Then, just to twist the knife, I mailed her a framed photo of me, Jake, and Brooke on the boat back home, sunburned, laughing, holding up a fresh catch. No note. Just the picture. She must have lost it because the next day I got a 3-paragraph text. "You're a cruel man, Alex. I thought you were better than this. I made a mistake, but at least I never tried to destroy you." I almost replied, "You didn't have to try, you just did." But I didn't. Silence was louder. After months of letting Maddie's mess play itself out, I realized something. Her downfall was satisfying, but it wasn't going to fix me. I'd been living in this loop of checking for updates on her drama, replaying her insults in my head like some masochistic playlist. So I cut it off. Blocked her number. Stopped asking mutual friends for updates. Deleted every photo of us. Even the wedding ones. Jake pushed me to get back in the water. "You're not you without the sea, man," he said. He was right. First dive back was like waking up after a long coma. Salt in my mouth, pressure in my ears, and that eerie quiet you only get underwater. I surfaced grinning like an idiot. But I didn't stop there. I signed up for a free diving instructor course, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Started working part-time at the marina, showing tourists how to handle gear, getting paid to do what I love. Even picked up underwater photography. Turns out I've got a knack for catching those eerie National Geographic-style shots. My sister Brooke set me up with an Instagram account for my pics, and within a couple of months, I had a small but loyal following. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up thinking about Maddie. I was waking up thinking about the tide charts, the weather, and how deep I could push myself today. It was a Saturday in early summer, one of those perfect days where the ocean's flat as glass and the air smells like salt and sunscreen. I just wrapped up a morning dive with a group of tourists when I saw her. Maddie. She was standing at the end of the dock in a wide-brimmed hat and oversized sunglasses, but I'd have recognized that posture anywhere. Hips tilted, one foot crossed over the other, like the whole world was her personal photo shoot. For a second I thought maybe she was here with someone else. But then she spotted me and froze just for a moment before plastering on that PR smile I used to fall for. "Alex," she said, walking toward me like we were old friends. "You look amazing." I was dripping wet in a wetsuit, mask dangling around my neck. Pretty much the opposite of glamorous. "What do you want, Maddie?" She gave this little laugh, all faux casual. "I was in town for work and heard you were back here. I thought maybe we could talk. Clear the air." I tilted my head. "Clear the air? You mean the part where you told me I wasn't enough? Or the part where you were sleeping with your client on a boat?" Her smile cracked just for a second. "I was wrong, okay? I miss you. I miss us." That line would have gutted me a year ago. Now it just felt cheap. "You don't miss me, Maddie. You miss the stability I gave you. You miss the guy who'd sell his soul to make you happy. That guy's gone." She blinked like she hadn't prepared for me not to play along. "So that's it? You're just done?" I glanced at the horizon where the sun was glittering off the water. "I was done the minute I saw you with him. This," I gestured to the ocean, "is my life now. You're not part of it." And then I walked past her, wetsuit squeaking, and didn't look back. Walking away from her that day felt different from the night I left her at the inn. That first time, my chest was full of rage and adrenaline like I was sprinting from a burning building. This time? Nothing but calm. I didn't replay the conversation in my head. I didn't wonder what she was doing after. I didn't even check her socials later, which for me was huge. That night, I sat on the porch at Jake's place with a beer, watching the sunset bleed into the Pacific. My mom came out and sat beside me, not saying anything for a while. Finally she said, "You look lighter." "I think I am," I told her. Seeing her, I realized she's just a person. Not this giant shadow hanging over me. Just a woman who made choices, and I made mine. Brooke joined us, plopping down in the chair across from me. "So no more revenge missions?" she teased. I shook my head. The best revenge is living in a way that makes her irrelevant. And I'm already there. It hit me then. Maddie had been the storm, but I was still the tide. I'd gone out, come back stronger, and left her standing on shore. For the first time since Portland, I wasn't worried about being enough. I was more than enough, just not for her. And that was fine. With Maddie out of my head, I finally had room to breathe, and more importantly, to live. I doubled down on the freediving classes. Tourists were one thing, but I started getting serious students. Locals who wanted to push their limits, even a few ex-military guys training for certification. There's something powerful about helping someone stay calm 40 feet under, watching their eyes light up when they realize they're capable of more than they thought. My underwater photography account started blowing up too. A couple of my shots got featured on a popular travel blog, and before I knew it, I was selling prints. The extra income meant I didn't have to touch the money I'd taken from the condo sale. And yeah, there was someone new. Claire. She ran the little cafe by the pier, always handed me my coffee with this easy smile. We started talking about the weather, the tide, her ridiculously good blueberry muffins. Eventually she came out on one of my beginner dives. Watching her surface, laughing through her snorkel, I realized I didn't feel that familiar weight of comparison to Maddie. This was new. Cling. My family noticed the change before I did. Dad told me I was starting to look like myself again. Mom said my laugh was louder. Brooke kept joking about wedding hashtags, but I told her to slow down. I wasn't in a rush. I'd left the storm behind, and now I was just sailing. Looking back now, I can see every red flag I ignored. The constant client dinners, the way she'd guard her phone like it was classified intel, the subtle digs about my small-town mindset. I let love, or what I thought was love, blind me. I learned the hard way that sacrifice in a relationship only works if it's mutual. I gave up the ocean, my community, my identity for someone who would have thrown me overboard the second she saw a shinier yacht. I also learned that cheaters don't just cheat on you, they rewrite the story to make you question your worth. That line she threw at me, "if you were enough," used to keep me up at night. Now I know it's just the language of someone trying to offload their guilt. And here's the kicker, revenge felt good, yeah. Watching her life unravel without me pulling every string was satisfying as hell. But the real win wasn't in seeing her lose, it was in building something better for myself. The deeper I got into my own passions again, the less space she took up in my head. The guy who left the coast for her? He's gone. The guy I am now? He wouldn't trade the tide for anyone. If you're reading this and you've just discovered your partner is cheating, here's what I wish someone had told me on day one. Don't rush your reaction. You don't need to scream, break things, or make a scene to win. Sometimes the best revenge is patience. Document everything. Screenshots, receipts, dates. Even if you never use them, it gives you leverage and clarity. Control the exit. Leave on your terms, not theirs. Make it so they don't just lose you, they lose the version of you that made their life comfortable. Expect them to twist the story. A cheater will almost always try to make you the villain. Let them. People who matter will see the truth. Rebuild before you replace. Don't rush into another relationship just to fill the hole they left. Get back to the things that made you, you. I thought Maddie breaking me would be the end of my story. It wasn't, it was the reset button I didn't know I needed. Now I'm back on the coast, teaching dives, selling photos, and maybe falling for someone who actually respects me. So if you're in the middle of the storm right now, hang on. Don't just survive it, come back stronger than you've ever been. And if you can, make damn sure the person who threw you overboard sees you sailing without them. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs up.